Eid Salah. I call it a political demonstration of the presence of Islam, because it is a demonstration.
Isn't that haram?
Yeah, okay. And you know, yesterday we have the killing in the US.
And this is apparently the 27th time this year that there's been a shooting in the school. So there's been more minor school shootings. But, you know, school shootings is as American as apple pie. That's just a sad reality.
Philosophically, Muslims are the only faith group that can build a state without subjugation, because they are used to it.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to today's Unscripted Podcast. We have with us two very special guests. We have Shaykh Haitham al-Haddad and Moazzam Begg. It's very good to see them after a while. Assalamu alaikum to Allah, Shaykh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How was your trip to Malaysia?
Alhamdulillah.
We wanna talk about some of the stuff that you, the reason why you went there, and you know, it was a trip about Palestine from, you know, global scholars and so forth. And we thought, who, you know, with the escalating tensions and attacks on Masjid al-Aqsa, thought who would be an excellent person to join our discussion with that. We have Moazzam Begg, mashallah, Outreach Director for Cage. Outreach Director?
Yes, inshallah.
Yeah, outreach, still Outreach Director for
Still
Cage,
outreaching,
mashallah.
yes.
Assalamu alaikum, Moazzam.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Thank you very much for joining us again.
My pleasure. Allah barak feek.
And, you know, we want to have people, leaders like Moazzam Begg and Shaykh Haitham, you know, always joining us. It's always a pleasure. So, Shaykh Haitham, why don't you start off by just explaining what your trip to Malaysia was, because it sounded really interesting, and we can talk about some of the points. Get a zoom in of Sheikh's lapel pin.
Which one? This one?
Representing
Yeah, this
East
is
Turkestan.
actually one of the brothers, the Uyghur brothers, gave me this
Yeah.
as a gift when I was in Malaysia.
Yeah, mashallah.
Yeah.
I went to Malaysia twice, 2012, 13, invited by Mahathir Mohamad, actually. They had a war crimes tribunal there, where they had survivors of Abu Ghraib, including brothers and sisters, and survivors of Guantanamo, including myself, Sami al-Hajj, and a couple of other brothers. And this was the first time, imagine I've been in all of these prisons and so forth, I ever gave evidence at any trial at all. And this was in a trial where Bush and Blair were indicted for war crimes. And as a result of the evidence from ourselves, both these guys and their acolytes were convicted. And this was a huge trial in which we'd given evidence, and people from around the world came, and including former United Nations Secretary Generals and so forth. Mahathir was present throughout the entire proceedings. And it was the first time also in my life I've ever been cross-examined. And as a result of that, though it's not enforceable because it's like a people's tribunal, they were both, Bush was found guilty of crimes against humanity and war crimes. And
What about Blair?
Blair was also part of it, but it was actually about those who instigated. So it was Bush and his cabinet.
Let me jump, just because this is unscripted. Yes. Let me jump into this. You know, subhanallah, when I was going to Malaysia, I went through Qatari Airways, using Qatari Airways. I'm not doing any advertisement for Qatari Airways.
You just have.
Yeah. So from Doha to Malaysia, the flight was full. There was no space to, you know, to move or to have maybe a seat where the next seat is empty. So, qadar of Allah, the person next to me was a British person. He was working, and he is still involved in the British military. And he served in Iraq.
I think that was qadr of Allah, of course, but also very well pre-planned on their part to put that guy next to you.
No, don't believe in conspiracy. That okay. So anyway, I was doing whatever I was doing. I was actually writing something for some solicitors about. They asked for our view regarding something a person allegedly an extremist has done, so they are asking about our view regarding that. Anyway, so I was writing that. And then I said, let me have a chat with this. He was a very nice gentleman. Yeah, you can tell. So so I started to have a chat, and then he said, yeah, I'm from Britain. I don't want to mention his exact details. He lives in Malaysia. He's born in Malaysia. Yeah? And he likes Malaysia. And then he told me that he served, he is still connected to the military, British military, and he served for the British military in Iraq and in Basra. And he told me that it was very evident for us, the senior people in the military, that the invasion of Iraq, this war was illegal. And we were not happy with it. He said most of us were not happy with it. And we were whispering among ourselves, but it was not allowed for us, because they are part of the military, to speak against it or to say anything negative about it. Yeah? And he said that all of us were, or most of us were, devastated about what we see, about the destruction that is taking place, and we know that it was baseless. Yeah, this is one of the things that we have mentioned. Actually, we have spoken about. Interestingly, he is convinced that Islam is the truth, and he said that anything in Islam is amazing. Yeah, and then I shocked him with the question. I said, so why don't you consider converting to Islam? And that was a shock for him, that question, you can tell. And then he said, I haven't considered it in my personal life. So I said, maybe you need to consider it, and you need to think of what will happen to you in the hereafter. And he said that, one of the interesting things that he said, that even Malaysia is becoming more Islamic. He said Britain is becoming more Islamic. Yeah, Malaysia is becoming more Islamic. I said to him, Malaysia, are you sure? He said yes. And he said, this is not only my conclusion, but my father, who lived in Malaysia 50 years ago, started living there 50 years ago, and he lived for almost 20 something, and he left Malaysia, and then he came a few years ago, just before the pandemic, to visit me. And when he visited me, he was astonished that more young people are displaying their Islamic identity. Of course, girls with hijab, the young people are more confident of their Islam, and so on. So that was really another astonishing thing for me. And of course, about Britain, he said, yeah, I know so many reverts. Islam is becoming more visible. And he said that we need, he said, maybe what we need to work on is making your Eid as a national day, as a national holiday, because we need more integration with the Muslim community, because this Islam became...
sounds definitely like a spy, Sheikh.
Spy?
Well, only I was going to say, I'm from Birmingham, and Eid already is a national day. So it's like
No. I don't think so. Not to this level. Okay. And spy on what? Yani? Spying on me to what?
He gets a free trip to Malaysia probably. So
yeah, just to spy on me. Yeah, but why didn't he travel with me from Britain? Okay.
Maybe he did.
Yeah,
he probably
maybe. Anyway.
Moazzam's okay. I know that guy.
Yeah, I don't think so. But there are some fruitful points came out of that discussion.
Did he comment on your perfume?
On my perfume?
Because he was sitting next to you.
Yeah, well, this is something else. We spoke about it separately.
But you don't like to mention it publicly?
Yeah, because I don't want to make any kind of...
He doesn't want to promote his perfume.
Yes, exactly.
Just like Qatar Airways.
Yeah.
MashaAllah, lots of people when they sit next to Shaykh Haitham, they remark that he has a really nice, mashallah, tabarakallah, scent.
Mashallah.
But he's whether it is a perfume or whether it is my sweat.
Yeah, it's
something else.
Yeah. Mashallah.
If you'd like to purchase one of Shaykh Haitham's t-shirts or something like that, can we Maybe do like a
with the perfume.
Yeah.
With the with my scent.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Sell on eBay.
Yeah. Maybe we can put it like big peers.
Yeah.
They can put
Inshallah.
Okay.
But I do remember that thing when talking about Malaysia. I do remember that thing you mentioned last time. I was at university when that happened. That tribunal, the People's Tribunal.
Yeah.
Mahathir actually came to Imperial, our university, because there are loads of, as you probably know, there are loads of embassies around there. So they chose to do an event there, but it was kind of blocked. The event was blocked, so only kind of students could come in.
Wow.
And it was a big thing, so he was, giving a...
I mean, one of the things they did at that tribunal, which was quite shocking, is that they built an exhibition. And it was a very visual exhibition of survivors of Abu Ghraib, Guantanamo, the secret detention site. So and some of us walked in there and came out shocked, because what it did is put you into a place where you're seeing people in naked prisoner pyramids, where people are being waterboarded, where people are being tortured, and they're all kind of mannequins or effigies of people in this way. And this was all Mahathir's idea, was his brainchild, the Kuala Lumpur War Crimes Tribunal. And one of the things that I remember to this day, which was one of the most shocking, was that there were sisters. So there were sisters, one particular sister from Iraq, who was giving evidence, and she spoke about the type of physical, sexual abuse that they'd suffered there, which at the time the American government had blocked any attempts by the Associated Press to publicize the detail of what was going on. But of course, the Iraqi people already knew what was happening to their women. And so as a result of that, you can clearly understand the rise of various organizations in that region were greatly fueled by this type of behavior, of which Obama said that if we publish it, it will damage our troops on the ground. But of course, that damage was already done, because everybody knew what had happened. And it was this that they were trying to get into the public arena. And recently when George Bush said that statement, when he slipped up, and there's one thing, George Bush, you've got to give it to him, he's consistent in making slip-ups and making mistakes, right? Saying stupid things. And he said it again, but it was the truth.
That, Shaykh?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
When they invaded Iraq, Ukraine.
A brutal, unjustified invasion of Iraq. Ukraine.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this is what it's told us, isn't it? That invasions have been good up until now, because this is a bad invasion.
Yeah.
Oh no. When you were talking about the women being, subject to sexual violence, and I was just thinking, where are all the women's rights groups?
Exactly.
When it comes to that,
nowhere to be seen, because here you see there were some people. There was people like Joanna Bork who'd written a report about the use of sexual violence as a weapon of war. We know this happened in Bosnia, for example, the mass rape of Muslim women in camps, systematically raped and impregnated by the Serb soldiers in order to tell the Muslims that you will give birth to our next generation, which of course they didn't. They gave, in the end, those children are Muslims. But it's the putting this in the psyche of the people. In Iraq, it was happening as well. In fact, the reports that have all now come out and widely accepted, it wasn't just women being raped. There was young boys being raped. There was men being raped. And sometimes in front of family members by American soldiers or their proxies. So all of this, still yet to this day, the shock of this is still not going to go away for generations. There are children born as a result of this type of violation. And so the dismemberment of Iraq wasn't just the physical occupation and the bombing and the killing and the imprisonment. It was actually the destruction of the family structure,
enduring legacy, and
exactly,
just like
maybe see. To be honest with you, focusing on what happened in Iraq is known to all of us, and what is happening in Palestine is known to us. What we need to focus on is how do we move forward. This is the challenge, because sometimes we are immersed or preoccupied in talking about the past and the conspiracies, etc., and we forget to focus on the future. And for example, one of the elements just related to what you have mentioned, which is destroying family structure. Destroying family structure, it is one of the biggest threats for this humanity. And we all need to work towards solutions against this systematic structure of families. Yeah. By the way, this British that you call him as a spy. One of the interesting things he said that in Islam there are structures everywhere, family structure, social structure, everything there is a structure. He said we don't have a structure. Even in our life, just in our day-to-day life, you have prayers, so you know what you are about to do, etc. And one of the things he said that, look, my family, my father had 4 siblings. So he said in total we are 5. We are coming from like a reputable family. He said, how many of us has children? The 5 of them. They had 1 child. And by mistake. Yeah.
I hope they don't call him that.
Okay. He said by mistake. It was not planned. Okay. So he said so that
I think a nicer way to put it is by surprise.
Whatever. By surprise.
Brother Waj from 4 Lions, doesn't he say I'm a mistake?
Yeah, okay. So he said that, look, all of us are 50, around that. So, and we are not, that's it. We can't have children anymore. So he said, my father now, his offspring will come to an end, except for this child. Hasn't this child come, then his offspring will come to an end. And he said, I was talking to him about the decline, of the population. And he said, what you are saying is absolutely true. And he gave me this example. But then, they were sold the idea of what? Of that this world, this earth is overpopulated. And I said to him, do you think that it is really overpopulated? He said, well, look at India, etc. I said, simple facts that they say that the person, if he has the normal circumstances, will not produce what is enough for him. They said, I think any average person will produce what is enough for, I think, 3 point something. So more population, if they have the normal circumstances to produce, they will be producing for triple of the population. So it is not true that this idea. And then I said to him that, see, the human being, either they grow or they decline. They cannot be stagnant. So you cannot have birth control and it will be stagnant. It will go down.
Like
he said,
China.
well, that is like China.
Yeah.
He said that is absolutely true. And we mentioned China, and we mentioned the other example of Japan. He said, yeah, I know of Japan, because one of the person who served in the military, etc., okay, he's related to the Japan or had a Japanese wife, and they are struggling. They are struggling in producing children. So this, for me, number of things, that Islam is the only civilization, despite of what they do, what they have done to us in Iraq, etc., and what they are doing to Islam and Muslims in many places in the world. That is the negative picture, or that is the negative picture. But on the other side, look at it. Allah Jalla wa Ala put in Islam the means for it not to survive, but to flourish. So this is the good news, and I always like to focus on this good news.
It does get a bit depressing when you're always looking at the crimes and what's happening.
Exactly.
But from that perspective, you also want to preserve that information to show, even from a dawah perspective or tarbiyah perspective, that, like, what was the name? Shaykh Ujairi?
Yeah,
the
Shaykh Abdullah.
Shaykh Abdullah Ujairi, who did a lot of work in dawah, and so he's one of his books that he translated apparently was on Hiroshima. Hiroshima and Nagasaki or something.
Yeah.
And he writes about, dawah and philosophy and stuff.
One of the things, of course,
and that was to show, look, he was like, look, the West presents this this image that they're superior, that they are civilized and so forth. But look, they are unmatched in terms of human suffering and destruction and decay. So don't look up to them.
Yeah. So see, yani, we have to have a balance. Everyone claims that he has to have a balance, but what does a balance mean? Okay, this what happened and what is still happening, we need to put it in the right context. And instead of just keep crying on it, let us use it, for the future. Okay? And as they say in Arabic, actually, يعني, we have a beautiful statement that الناجحون يستغلون الأحداث لصناعة الأهداف. Yeah, successful people use incidents to invest in the
goals.
Yeah, goals. But the failing people, whenever they see any incidents, they cry because they immediately think that they are losing the goals. So this is yani how we look at it. And to be honest with you, I see Islam is flourishing everywhere. And let us link that to, in Ramadan, most of the people that I spoke to, they said that this Ramadan was one of their best, if not the best Ramadan for them.
Inshallah.
Why? If we want to have like a social analysis of this phenomena, and I haven't seen many who have done that. Why? Because in general, the Ummah is enjoying the month of Ramadan. Yeah? Because the days you enjoy, they go very quickly. And the days you don't enjoy, they go very slow, isn't it? And you have good experience of the bad days. They go very slow, isn't it? But the days of joy, they go very quickly. This means that the Ummah, knows about the status of Ramadan, which means that the Ummah is going back to the religion. Look at the video clips of the people attending Salat al-Tarawih everywhere in the world. Yeah, Bosnia, you were talking about Bosnia, Morocco, al-Aqsa. Yeah, these are clear al-Aqsa, but other places. And this is really amazing. This shows that the Ummah is going back. Look at the millions of people who were attending the Eid prayers. Look at here in England. Yes, just in one gathering, it was over 30,000 in East London. But next to that gathering, just 2 miles away, just literally 2 miles away, there was another gathering of 5,000+. Yeah. And then there were just a few miles away, there was another gathering of 10,000 and so on. In Birmingham, you had the big gathering. This time, I don't know how many.
It's about 30,000 in one place, but then there's thousands of little groups. I mean, it's hundreds of little groups all over the place.
And look at this. This is amazing. So Islam became visible. And, I call this Eid Salah, I call it a political demonstration of the presence of Islam. Yeah, I call it a political demonstration because it is a demonstration.
Isn't that haram?
Yeah, Eid Salah is haram.
No, it's the demonstration.
Well, you heard it here.
You heard it here. You heard it here first.
Like, protest, khuruj anil haq.
Yeah, you are obsessed with
But you're going to say something.
I forgot what I was going to say. I was going to say is that, one of the things we have to remember, the Ummah is huge. It's a massive Ummah. And there's space for all the different things. We must look forward. One of the things about tracking, because obviously that's one of the stuff that we do, is that tracking, recording, accounting those who are in power and responsible. So, as I said, as a child, I went to a Jewish school, as you know. And from childhood, I learnt about the Holocaust and about accounting those involved in the Holocaust. I learned it from that time, and I'm still hearing it now. And that was 25 years, 30 years after the war. So you've got the Simon Wiesenthal Center, who track the records of Nazis around the world. They're nearly 100 years old. They're still chasing them down, right? They're still looking after them. They're still trying to find them and to capture them in whichever part of the world they're in and bring them back to justice. So preserving that part of our history is crucial. And at a point at which we are at least in strength, So one of the things that the War Crimes Tribunal in Malaysia, they knew they couldn't do anything to Bush. But now this is a prime minister of one of the most powerful countries in Southeast Asia who's overseen a tribunal that if Bush was to have that time have stepped there, he would have been afraid. And it was just that message, really. It was nothing more than that. Malaysia's not in a position to arrest Bush, right? Or to issue an international arrest warrant for him, which is what should have happened. But it's something that we, as part of the world community, considering we're about at least a fifth or a quarter of it, we should have been well advanced in this regard. And people should have been at least afraid if we do something at this scale to the Muslims at some time, there's going to be a hisab.
What allows Malaysia to do something like that?
Yeah, before that, let me just comment on this. Yeah? Sorry I'm not taking you.
You're not taking my word. You want to get into a fight with me, yeah?
No. Jewish people lived most of their life subjugated. Yeah? And they did not have a state. I'm talking about serious
they didn't.
social philosophical analysis of this, because they lived most of their life subjugated. So in their long-term memory is subjugation. Yeah, and now that participated in building their worldview. Compare that to Islam. Yeah, Islam did not live most of its life and Muslims as subjugated. Yeah? When the Prophet ﷺ came, he gave da'wah for 13 years in Mecca. Maybe you can say subjugated, but immediately, 13 years is not a very long period of time. They moved to Medina as what? As victorious, and they built what? A state. Yeah? And one of the American thinkers picked up this point, and he said all religions are not qualified to build a state. So the state, neither the Jewish people nor the Christians are qualified to build a state, let alone an empire. Why?
That's why the first Christian state was actually built by the Romans.
Yes, yeah. Why? Because he said that they do not have the experience of a state while they are superior, and they were subjugated, or they could not build a state. So in their mind, in their historical memory, they cannot be superior without subjugation. Their experience is a state has to subjugate. Yeah. So they will. This is the model. And this model is coming from their historical, memory.
You can say the same about Christians though as well.
Yeah, he was saying about Jewish and Christians.
Yeah, because the Europeans have always historically had a problem with tolerating minorities and so forth.
Why? Yeah. Why? Because in their memory, this is the model they have.
This is what power means. You have to dominate others.
Dominate others. Yeah. And this is, they said, just to understand this simply, if a boy lived with the parents who abuse him all of the time, it is very likely that when he becomes a father, he will abuse because he doesn't have a model. While Muslims, they lived in Mecca, maybe someone can say they were subjugated for 13 years, but immediately they built what? A state.
Even when they were subjugated, the Prophet ﷺ was giving them
hope.
Victorious.
Exactly. Victorious mindset. Yeah. Not subjugated mindset. That's why
with the Jews, right? So you've got this thing that goes back. The school I went to was called the King David School, right? So this is at a time they're talking about a time when they were in power, right? King David, King Solomon. That's the only time when there is historically for the Jews a state of their own, which is powerful.
Yeah, which is quite
thousands of years
ago. So in their close memory, they did not build a state. So that's why if they build a state, they will subjugate. Yeah. Now Muslims are the only, and I say it clearly, philosophically, Muslims are the only religion or faith group that can build a state without subjugation. Yeah, because they are used to it. Yeah, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ and during the 4 rightly guided caliphs, and not only that, during the Umayyan period, during the Abbasi period, for the first 650 years of their existence, they were a superpower and they did not subjugate. And the proof of that was, or the model of that was repeated during the Ottoman Empire, because the Ottoman Empire, whatever you call it, Khilafah, Caliphate, Empire, whatever, they were like a superpower, and they did not subjugate. And if someone said that they subjugate others, other minorities, should prove that. Okay? And the fact that, look, you know, they speak Turkish or they speak the old Ottoman. The other places that they ruled, they still speak their languages. So the Arabs are speaking their language. You know, the Balkans, they are speaking still their languages. The Ottomans, they did not force them to change their language. Not only that, how many church was destroyed by the Ottomans? Yeah, but compare this to, for example, the Christians. In Belgrade, you know, there were hundreds of mosques, and what is remaining among those mosques maybe handful. Yeah, because when they came to power, they destroyed all the mosques.
And of course, Spain is another example of that.
Spain is another example. We have so many examples of this. This is one thing. And there is another thing why Islam is the only qualified religion or faith to become a superpower. There is another subtle point, but so important, which is that if Muslims become in power, they still believe that there is a superpower above them to keep them in awe. One of the biggest problems now, philosophically, they are talking about power breeds corruption. So they say, how can we control power so it doesn't breed corruption? Yeah? And they are unable to find a solution for that.
Sue Gray report.
What is it?
The Sue Gray report was released today, a few hours ago. I don't know if you heard of there was a press conference, everything that entered Boris Johnson's Partygate. Bottom line is he's not resigning, but he's like changing loads of the staff in 10 Downing Street. But I was just thinking,
and then he's gonna have a drink about it afterwards as well.
Yeah. So this is an issue. You know, they discuss every time, and then they discuss this issue. You know, when George Floyd was killed in you know.
Today is the anniversary.
Today is the anniversary of okay.
Yeah.
And you know, yesterday we have the killing in the U.S. This boy who killed. They said they're 21 now. Yeah, they told. They did toll.
And this is apparently the 27th time this year that there's been a shooting in the school. So there's been more minor school shootings. But, you know, school shootings is as American as apple pie. That's just a sad reality.
And it is a disaster. Just a boy to kill 21 children just like this. It is a disaster. So the issue is power. When people feel powerful, whether because they have weapons or whether whatever, they will oppress.
So quick question.
But is the idea clear? And just Allah Jalla wa Ala, you know, solved this problem in the first chapter that was revealed from heavens to this earth to tell them that this is what is going to happening. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. Then Allah Jalla wa Ala said, whether these were revealed after or كلا إن الإنسان لا يطغى أن رآه استغنى. That human being, this is their nature, they will what? Transgress. When they feel what? That they are self-sufficient, which is power. So that's why if there is no superpower above any power, it will transgress.
Have you ever been to York? Any of you?
Yes, I've been to York.
So do you know, have you ever been to Clifford Tower? You must see that tower in the middle of the town, right?
Yeah, I saw it.
You know the history of that place? It's amazing. So there was the Jews of York. They had all gathered, and there's a lot of them who lived there, came after the Crusades and so forth, and were involved in banking and so forth. The local community chased them up, 150 Jews, into this tower, right? And what took place next is that the crowd wanted to murder them because they had been using, taking interest, but not using it amongst themselves. So interest amongst the Christians at that time was forbidden. And the hatred had built so much, they chased them into this tower. The Jews all committed suicide, 150 of them. They killed themselves.
When was this? Sorry?
This was around 1150, the year 1150.
Okay.
So just around the time when the Crusades were happening. And so the hatred for Jews in Europe was massive. In Britain, there was the story of Hugh of Lincoln. He's a young boy who, it was said of him that he was slaughtered by a Jew in return for a person not paying the interest back. So again, there was a whole pogrom against the Jews. The Jews were officially expelled from the United Kingdom, from Britain, until Oliver Cromwell brought them back in 1650. Yeah. And you know where they went to after they were expelled? Al-Andalus. And they went to Al-Andalus and were accepted there, and the famous Maimonides and all the other people, they flourished. And I always think this is because of one thing. We can't believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot die.
Yep.
Whereas the Christians believed that the Jews killed their God. So there was always a hatred for them. There was always a mistrust of them, that they sold out Jesus. And we, of course, there was never an ideological disbelief about that part of it. So there was never that ideological hatred, as the Christians hated the Jews. And they were hated so much. So, I mean, even here, we're in East London here, right? One of the murders that took place, Jack the Ripper murders, I think it was the third murder. On the wall, outside where the body of one of the victims was, somebody had written, "The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." When the chief of police came along and saw that, because everybody who lived in this region at that time were Eastern European Jews, he said, "Wipe that off, otherwise there will be a massacre against the Jewish people." Because it was believed that it was Jack the Ripper could have been a Jew, right? Yeah. So the anti-Semitism that exists, if you read Shakespeare's play, The Merchant of Venice, for example, in here, Shylock, in that story, Shylock is the guy who asks for a pound of flesh if he doesn't get his money back. So he's this hated character. And this caricaturing of Jews just simply didn't exist within Islam. It was not part of the Ahlul Kitab. Yeah. And this type of hatred, this was just in England, which was supposed to be kind of more friendly towards the Jews, right? In Eastern Europe, it was even worse. So you think to yourself, the idea of who would cause the Holocaust or kill millions of them, this is not from Islam at all. Yeah. Islam would never even consider something like this. And this is today, when we're talking about so-called anti-Semitism, this is purely a European construct. Yeah. And something
even to be honest with you, there is another angle. Yeah, there is, even if we, from an Islamic perspective, hate someone, as Muslims, whatever. Imagine a criminal, okay? He raped, he killed, etc., and we hate him or we hate them. We are not allowed to deal with anyone unjustly. Yeah, we are not allowed to deal with anyone unjustly, even if we hate them. That's why, there is here, a problem with language. A problem with language. For example, we as Muslims, the word, مثلا, when Allah Jalla wa Ala said, وَبَدَى بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمُ الْبَغْضَاء. Yeah.
العداوة والبغضاء.
Yes. So the baghdha is translated as hatred, literally translated. Okay. So that you don't like people who belong to other faiths. But this is in Arabic. But if you translate it to English, it doesn't mean the same thing that what it means in Arabic. Because in English, if you translate baghdha to hatred, it has another connotation, which is hatred with oppression, with with any kind of bad treatment to others. While our baghda, our hatred as Muslims, in fact, it entails kind of love for the person you have baghda or hatred to. So you love that all people, even those whom you hate, that they become Muslims. And this is a unique notion for Islam. Yeah? Even if you hate someone, you love that this person becomes Muslim. You love goodness for this person. This is one thing. The other thing is you don't annoy him, you don't deal with him unjustly, and so on and so forth. So our concept of hate is totally different from the concept of hate within other faiths. But the problem is the translation. Normally, our baghda is translated as what? As hate. And hate has this negative connotation.
So this is like, that's really, I find that interesting because, you know, one of the things when they're talking about one of the reviews of descriptions of extremism is, one of the new descriptions is hateful extremism.
Yeah.
So that's one of the new connotations, or incarnations.
But Shaykh is talking about loveful hate.
Loveful hate.
Oh, maybe this is a new term.
Yeah.
You know, this is true. I found that so many things cannot be translated. Because see, you know, when you translate, you are moving one person from a context to another context.
I agree.
And the other context, the original context you cannot imagine.
It doesn't exist in the culture to begin with.
Yes, it doesn't exist in the new culture. So how on earth you are going to imagine it? Yeah? And that's why, you know, now if someone were to ask me certain things that are related to translation, I say no, immediately no, because they cannot imagine it, because it is totally different social construct. So is there any hate in Islam? No. Yeah, but in the Quran, yeah, وَبَدَّ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمُ الْعَدَاوَةُ وَالْبَغْضَاءُ, how it is there. No, that is what? Totally different. Okay? And this is similar to, you know, similar to slavery. Is there slavery in Islam? No. They said, how come you deny slavery? Yeah, I deny slavery. We don't have slavery. Yeah, but it is in the Quran. It is. No. So what is that in the Quran? It is riq. There is no English translation for that. Because the minute you translate it to slavery, you are what?
Jazakallah khair. I think that's a really important point about generally understanding Islam, because that's one of the reasons why I wanted to learn Arabic, because in the end, you can say, if you know, somebody comes along, and I think one of the journalists from Five Pillars, he said this, it's so funny to one of the guys from HJS who claims to be an expert in Islam. And he said, well, Islam says this, the Quran says this, Quran says this. He said, you're saying the Quran says all of this. Please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for me. And he couldn't. And that's the point, isn't it? Because you're reading translations of the meanings of what you think may be the right word, but it's actually not. Allah didn't speak to us in that language. He spoke to us in Arabic.
And the translation is not just a translation, it's actually transformation of the social construct. So maybe we need to find a word for it. It is translation and the transformation of the social construct. Because once you use the word slavery, khalas, in your mind, what is in your mind? That big white man with a big belly, and he's holding
what the Americans did. That's what you think about America straight
exactly
away.
Holding the whip, and he's just these black people. This is slavery. But for
Islam, you think Salim Mawla Abu Hudayfa.
Exactly.
Salim Mawla Abu Hudayfa, who's buried in the same grave as him, who leads his master in prayer.
Exactly. And look at Yaqut, a great geographic geography scholar. He was quote unquote, I cannot use it because it doesn't make sense.
Or the Mamluk dynasty.
The word Mamluk means slave, right?
Exactly.
It means slavery. Slaves.
And we have so many.
That's why in Islam 21C editorial team we actually have a list of untranslatables. that insists
that is very good, and we really need to.
Does that include your surname?
Yeah, we really need to promote this.
Yeah.
Okay, even the word tahara. Give me a translation for the word tahara. Just simple one.
Books give it purification, don't they?
Impossible. Okay. Can you say? Because we had a group with senior students and scholars to translate a book of this was quite long time ago, a book of fiqh. So I said to them, now does it make sense to say, مثلا, the sample of urine, that it is impure when you take it to the laboratory? Yeah, this is impure. How are they going to understand it?
Can't.
That there may be blood in it, or there are but it is pure. For them, it is pure. Yeah,
pure urine.
Yeah, exactly, pure urine. For us, it doesn't make sense. And the dog, what are you going to do? It is impure. Doesn't make sense, or it is.
That's the interesting thing. Just for the sake of time, I want to
go ahead.
get back on track.
Well, it is your mistake because if you allow, they said.
But I like allowing these.
You've got to do
in Malaysia.
You have to dive in like a slide tackle.
Exactly, in Malaysia.
That's the
problem. We had a discussion, and when any of the scholars take the mic, that's it. Yeah. So they don't stop. They have to take it by
You can just
by
turn it
force.
up. You can just turn it
so
off.
what you've got to really do is develop your ability to snatch the mic back.
Exactly.
I think I can just turn the volume
So
down.
they said, don't give, a shaykh
Mashallah.
a mic.
Yeah.
Unless they're
that's it.
unscripted. That's what we like, inshallah.
Yeah.
We've got a bit of a segment here in the middle, a little bit of game.
So you are putting us in this prison. You did not. Yeah, alhamdulillah, you offered some water. Offer him some water. No tea, no.
Naughty?
No tea.
Don't say that. Said don't say that word, right? We said that.
No tea,
No tea, Sheikh.
no coffee, nothing.
Sheikh, we had lots of food here, but then I said when Shaykh Haitham comes, he's going to start criticizing us for having so much food on the table. So
yeah,
I think
and
this is our social construct.
Yeah, this is not a healthy food.
This
is not healthy food.
Yeah,
this is not healthy food.
This is
donut. Come on, it was not healthy.
I'm gonna eat it later.
We need to, seriously, Dr. Salman, as this is unscripted. See, I'm removing that, so it will not be
advertising.
Yeah, okay. We need to start maybe. Did you have a podcast about healthy eating?
Yeah, with Ramiz.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
We've got a few more as well, inshallah.
Yeah,
we
need
Dr. Munir Rivalia.
Yeah. We need different things, not just, about these classical things. Yeah.
So, but what we're going to do is play a little game now.
I was talking to someone about the importance of having a pet.
A pet?
Yes.
It's bid'ah.
No, if we start talking about this, okay, that, now because the children are so immense in this electronic, they need to become human, man. They don't have emotions
you can
anymore.
get robotic pets now, I think, as well.
Yeah, I know.
With USB and everything charging.
I mean, it's good in one sense because, like, if you want to discipline your kids, they don't respond and react because they have no emotions.
Let them feel. Yeah, okay.
My wife's auntie, she got a really nice
cat,
little kitten. We were babysitting it.
Yeah, the problem is many.
Your wife's auntie.
Yeah,
it's very close.
Yeah, many women, they don't like cats in their houses. But if that is possible, Anyway, maybe the Arabs, they don't like this. But if we can have this to promote this as a matter of tarbiyah for the children.
Teach them responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. And looking and being human.
I heard on the radio today on the way here that since last year the demand for pets has gone in half. Because when I think when COVID lockdown happened, loads of people wanted pets. But then
no,
crazy
they are worried about maybe monkey pox.
But the really crazy thing was they said the price of a puppy has gone down by £1,000.
Wow!
And I was like,
we only
how the hell?
I think we only bought it for £20 to begin with, right?
That means it was more than £1,000.
Exactly.
So that's crazy.
So what, £1,000.
And some people look at these fatwa websites. It says it's haram to pay for a cat or a dog. Isn't it?
This is another discussion, but carry on with your.
Anyway, we have a little game to play. Do you remember Family Fortunes?
Yes, I do.
I think this was made just so I. No, not that
Wrong one. Definitely not that. Yep.
That's the one. So basically, we have a survey beforehand, and 100 people, whatever, asked a question, and you have to guess what the most common answer was. Pretty straightforward. So I have a test one. For example, name something snowmen might have nightmares about.
Okay, what did your survey say?
Yeah, you have to.
I have to tell you.
You have to guess something a snowman will have a nightmare about.
Hellfire?
Fire is number 2. Yeah. I don't have a bing. Services.
Hot summer's day?
Yeah.
Any beach weather, that was number 1. 62% said that.
There you go.
You get the idea.
Hot summer's day.
Hot summer, yeah.
Any so Moazzam got the top 2.
Yeah, Moazzam is a genius guy.
He's a man of the people.
Yeah, of course.
Do you enjoy building snowmen?
I used to.
Statues, yeah?
Snowmobiles now. Snowmobiles.
Yeah, but now the snow is not as okay.
Okay, there were 6 answers this one. Normally there's 5. I don't know. So sun/beach weather, fire/flamethrowers, blow dryers, rain, snow plow/shovel, or a drought. Okay. Next question is, so these people were asked, name a fictional land.
Atlantis.
Atlantis is number 3.
What is this? Palmoda. What is this?
Palmoda?
Yeah.
Fictional.
The triangle.
No, that's real.
Bermuda.
Bermuda's a real place.
Bermuda.
Xanadu.
Xanadu?
With a ZX.
No.
All right. They don't.
That wasn't on it.
Okay.
Name a fictional made-up land. What was that?
What's that called now? What's it called? Wakanda.
Yeah, Wakanda. That was number 2.
Is it? Okay.
What's number 1?
Pakistan.
I'm thinking that
Hadouken!
number 1 was actually Israel. Something tells me this is not an accurate cross section of the general population. But Israel number 1 answer, number 1 made up. On that note, so going all the way back to the beginning, because unscripted, we were talking about
so I managed to take you all the way away from your question.
No, it's not. That's what we like. We like to explore the
world,
the spontaneous kind of tangents and stuff. But your trip was about Palestine.
The
Palestinian issue.
Conference was about the unity of Palestine. The unity of Muslims as the only way to liberate al-Quds.
Okay.
That is.
Sheikh, let me ask you just a quick question about that, right? So recently, you had the journalist Shireen Abu Akleh who's just been killed, right?
Yeah.
In seeking the solution,
he's killed.
Murdered.
Exactly.
Yeah. Murdered. Sorry. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
In seeking the solution for Palestine, obviously the Palestinian Christians are targeted just as much as Muslims, perhaps, or to some extent. To some extent.
Yeah.
So where do they fit in? Where do the Palestinian Christians fit into the conversation and Islamic solution for Palestine?
So you mean if Palestine is
liberated? Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So of course.
And even before that, what role do they play in? So
especially
now because of this has happened, right?
In all these countries, like Palestine, we have Bethlehem, okay, full of Christians.
Yeah.
In Al-Quds, okay, there is also a big church, and they've been living there peacefully, and they've been practicing their religion, whatever, we disagree with it, but they have their own faith, and they were living. In fact,
from the time of Umar al-Khattab and the Ahd al-Umariyya and the
Ahd al-Umariyya, etc. In fact, you know, my mother originally from Gaza, and she was always saying, she used to use the word Deir al-Latin, Deir al-Latin, Deir al-Latin. Deir al-Latin is an area next to where we were living in Gaza, yeah, which is in
land
Gaza.
of the Latin people.
Yes, and there, you know, is the Christian or a place for Christians, and they were living there, and obviously the interfaith marriage was limited. Okay, because they know that this different faith, Christians know that Muslims are different, but they can live peacefully. This is back to what I have said, that when Islam rules, yeah, it will rule with justice, and will give a space to other faiths to survive, and it will not oppress them. Okay, but in the meantime, Islam is not a passive way of life, okay? Because Islam knows that if you are strong, you will be oppressed. So it doesn't oppress.
If you're strong. If you're strong, you'll be oppressed. If you're weak.
If you are weak, you will be oppressed. Yeah, and so Islam does not allow this to happen. So Islam says, yes, you can survive, but be careful. Don't be the fifth column. Don't plot against the Islamic State. This is your area, live in it. Okay, these are the boundaries, etc., etc. Okay, because if there is no control, then chaos will happen, and everyone will suffer.
To your knowledge, to what extent? Because obviously, it's historically in the past there have been some, you know, notable characters like I may forget their names now, Hanan Ashrawi and those sorts of people from the Christian community who've been part of the resistance. Is that something that is widely known and widely practiced, or is it less?
I'm to be honest with you, I'm not expert in this area, but from what I heard from my parents, etc., it's not known. It's not known that the Christians took part in the struggle. However, don't quote me. Okay,
I know there was some organization like Abu Nidal and George Habash and people like that. There were some who fought back from the various kind of Christian leftist organizations, but I don't know
they are actually more lefties than Christians.
Okay.
This is how you
so
can see it.
You're talking about when Islam's in power and so forth, and you know things are far more tolerant for everyone. But is that your answer then? Is that you're saying the answer to liberate al-Quds is for Muslims to try and seek power?
To be honest with you, the problem is a bit complicated. Okay, and I did say this in the meeting. I did not like many things that have been said in the meeting. Okay, but anyway, I don't have control over the conference. Yeah, I was just invited. Just some people invited me to the conference. I do not know who is attending. And what are even the discussions? We were not aware of the discussions. I disagreed with some of the conclusions that they came up with and the language even that they used, but I have no control over it. For example, I was sitting with a few people and I said to them, here there is an issue, a big issue, okay, and it is a deep point, which is Israel is a country, a state recognized by the United Nations. Whether we like it or we don't like it, we are bound by the United Nations. Yeah? So, how are you going to deal with Israel as a state that is recognized by the United Nations? So, this is a question. So, just saying that, okay, we'll wipe Israel out It doesn't make sense. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. This, of course, people become, agitated, especially Palestinians, although I am Palestinian, okay, but I like to look at it from more intellectual perspective and from an academic perspective. I said to them, that doesn't mean they become agitated when you say to them, well, Israel is a country, is a state that is recognized. Yeah, okay, so what are you going to do with it? So they said, what? It means that you support it. Come on, man, I'm not supporting it. I know that they are terrorists. They are killing the Palestinians. My parents suffered because of them. They have occupied our lands, etc., etc., etc. That is one thing. But on the other side, they became a recognized country. Yeah? So what are you going to do with that? That intellectuals have to come up with, a solution for that. Now, I remember one journalist was asking me, I said, see, for the Jewish people, to have their own state or not to have their own state, this is their business. Don't ask me. It's not my business. Yeah? Because they said, do you deny that they should have the right to have a state? I said, this is their business. By the way, in the demonstration just before we left, there are so many Jews who are against Israel because they are against having a state for the Jewish people. They say that
until the Messiah comes.
Even someone told me, I'm not expert in this field, that even some people say that even when Messiah comes, okay, the state has a different understanding. It's not like the modern state that we understand now. Okay,
like a spiritual state.
It's something like this. Okay. So I said,
like
this is for.
Like Qadianis have.
Maybe. Anyway, so I said this is for the Jewish people to decide whether they want to have a state or not. But the point is, for us as Muslims, or for me as Palestinian, they should not take the land of anyone. As simple as this. And let them have, maybe agree with anyone to have their own state, etc., etc. The matter is much more simpler if we want to discuss it from a simplistic perspective than how it is now. Okay? But aside from this, now it is very unfortunate, okay, now that there is a reality that we have to deal with it, which is Israel is a recognized state. How to deal with this, okay? This is one point. Now, in terms of Al-Quds doesn't belong to the recognized Israel. It is part of the land that was occupied in 1976. So this is Israel, at least, the Al-Quds al-Sharqiyya.
West Bank.
Occupied West Bank, which is, Al-Quds is part of it. Now, even if we come to the two-state solution, the Israelis themselves, they don't want that solution. They don't want that solution because they say, what about the settlements? What about Al-Quds? We want Al-Quds for us. That's why the conflict is quite deep and it cannot be solved just simply like this. So anyway, there are some legal, political, social issues that are involved that we need to think about, okay, when we talk about Al-Quds.
What do you think then? What is what does some kind of solution look like, roughly speaking? I mean, one thing is to, Al-Quds, and in particular Masjid al-Aqsa, there's that issue. How to stop, do we want to, I'm assuming we want to stop the regular incursions and the desecration of the masjid and the killing and attacking the worshippers there. How do you practically do that? How can you?
I mean, the obvious one is the one that the surrounding Arab Muslim countries have failed in repeatedly for the past, several decades, which they've had the ability to. And unfortunately, agree with them or disagree with them, the only people kind of defending what's left of that is Hamas in Gaza, which now in itself has been banned as a terrorist organization because of that. So you can see now there's a systematic attempt of... one thing that you always remember, every Palestinian resistance group, whether they've been secular, believe in the two-state solution, believe in an Islamic solution, Islamic resistance, or leftist, they've all been banned as terrorist groups in the West, every single one of them. So what it tells you here, they don't really even care about the ideology. They care about the fact that somebody... they did everything. Yeah. But Palestinians to essentially remove anything other than assimilation. And the only one place, every time al-Aqsa gets attacked, that the only response you get is from Gaza, which I know most of the Muslim people in the world, even non-Muslims, understand that there must be some kind of defense. And unfortunately, where the solution lies, it's not coming from. And there cannot be another solution. What was taken militarily can't be negotiated back off the negotiating table.
Yeah, let me say this, although I know that people will misunderstand what I'm saying, and as it happened before, and
you're always being misunderstood.
Yeah,
Sheikh, aren't
you? Because and even in Malaysia they misunderstood me, and I was attacked by a few people, not physically.
Whenever someone says that now you got the audience really interested.
Yeah, this is
because I think you're getting attacked. I think you're doing some like blocks and that.
No, not because of this.
Okay.
See, the issue is like Hamas and other resistance groups that were labeled as extremist groups or terrorist groups. Now, from a legal perspective, they say why Hamas and others are named as terrorist groups. We have just to be, one of the biggest problems of Muslims, they don't give attention to the international law. They don't give attention to law. They take things in a very emotional way. Yeah? They said that Hamas is calling for the destruction of a recognized state. And any group, by law, any group that is calling openly for the destruction of any, calling and working for the destruction of a recognized state, then it should be banned. It should not be supported by any of the international community. I don't know about calling it as a terrorist state, but it is illegal.
Really?
Of course.
To call for the peaceful disbandment of any particular state.
No, for the destruction. So now here is the thing. So the destruction
like
of a state,
whatever, states they get formed and dissolved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So So if there is any group that is openly calling and working for example, the destruction of Iraq, then that is illegal from a legal perspective.
I suppose it depends.
That means pretty much the whole of the West is guilty.
Okay, but the only thing, see, the West, where does the West say we want to destroy a country? They are very careful. They are not like us. They are very careful in using their statements. And they try to justify, even Israel, whenever they do something, they try to justify it from a legal perspective because they don't want to be held responsible for that, long time. But we, unfortunately, Muslims, they don't use their words carefully. And they don't work within the international paradigm. And that's why they get themselves into trouble. Sometimes they don't mean it, but this is how it is. For example, Syria. Although, Syria, because you were imprisoned because of sending what?
Generator.
Sending generator or boots.
Generator.
Generator
Yeah.
to the so-called rebels there. What was the justification for them to imprison you? Because you have sent a generator, okay, or money or whatever, to a group that is working to destroy a sovereign state.
Which the British government was supporting also.
Okay. Supporting who?
The Free Syrian Army. So the British government...
So
part of my defense, and the reason why my case fell apart, is that I'd sent one generator, the British government had sent 1,000 generators.
Yeah, but when they send it, they send it under what category?
Supporting these Free Syrian Army rebels. So
okay.
British policy was, of course, if you remember, that they were...
In the beginning.
So they wanted to bomb Assad. Yeah. And they were supplying non-lethal aid up until January 2014. So this is one example of, mass, not just hypocrisy, but complete...
double standards.
Different messages.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, you say, we support. On the other hand, but if you support as an individual, like, for example, now with the Ukraine, you see so many foreign fighters going over to fight in Ukraine. If those foreign fighters now got arrested and prosecuted for taking part in the very thing that the British government is supplying weapons for, it would send a massive mixed message.
No, they will not, because...
No, they won't. I know they won't.
Legally, Ukraine officially...
Invited them.
That doesn't mean anything.
No.
I'll tell you why.
See,
because
this is one thing. You remember the Danish Parliament, maybe 3 months ago, when they had a discussion, they said nothing legally, nothing from a legal perspective, nothing stops us from preventing those.
No, but it's still illegal.
But you see, Sheikh,
because they said a sovereign country have asked for help.
But you see,
you have a peace treaty with the people you're fighting. So
Sheikh, you've got to remember, this is now, you're entering into a field where politics reigns supreme. What happens is that the Soviet Union is invited by the Afghan government at the time to take over the British and the West and so forth. They backed the Mujahideen to fight against that. Their argument was that we were invited. So this now is a political arena where what you decide is what's right and not what is... There is no clear international law on this when it comes to the invitation of a different group, because it just depends where your politics ends.
No. So, okay. The case of Russia and Ukraine, a sovereign state, being attacked, invaded by another state. So according to the international law, they have the right to defend themselves and inviting anyone to defend them. Okay? Yes, they have, for example, Denmark or other countries, they have, agreements with Russia not to attack Russia. But that is to attack Russia, but not to defend a country that is attacked by Russia. My point is and see, at the end of the day, I agree with you. The superpowers can change the law, but we are not in a position as Muslims to change the law. And the minute we just go outside the law, then we will be punished badly. Okay? So we need to, if we are not a superpower, we need to take those parameters into consideration. And there is no point of arguing, but America is doing this, Britain is doing this, Russia is doing this, China is doing... they are superpowers. They can change the law.
I have to say something, right? Just because something is a law doesn't make it right. So
I agree.
Apartheid was a law which Nelson Mandela fought against, went to prison. At the time, his sacrifice, he changed it. Slavery was a law. The idea of the word rendition comes from when they used to render escaped slaves back to their master. It was the law. It was Jim Crow laws were laws. In Nazi Germany, it was the law not to save or to protect any Jews. So people got killed, they got massacred and so forth, but history remembers those who stood up against it, even and especially against superpowers.
But that has to be done carefully, because otherwise, if you are trying to do that and you are weak, you will be just finished immediately. You cannot even progress.
You could say those people who won at the end of the day, they stood up and challenged it and actually changed the law.
Well, this is the point. This is the point. You take from Britain, for example, the suffragettes, right? They fight. They use tactics that today would be regarded as terrorism, and I mean, using all sorts of stuff, and they are now celebrated. Remember, throughout history, taught in every single school. At the time, they were marginalized. They were called all sorts of names. They were thrown into prison. They had no power. They were weak women. They were tortured. They were force-fed after hunger strikes. Today, history remembers them as one of the most powerful movements of the 20th century, right? Which changed it by that principled position, which you could be weak. But tomorrow, you don't know what seeds you've laid down to strengthen future generations.
But the point is, when you want to do something like this, you have to you have to take into consideration whether you are going to as we use, and we use this Arabic term, died before he was born.
Stillbirth.
Okay. Stillbirth. Okay. So we have to be careful.
Failed before you started.
Exactly. Failed before
I mean,
you
the thing with the suffragettes and that kind of stuff.
The other thing is, even breaking the law. Sometimes breaking the law can be tolerated in certain circumstances, but sometimes breaking the law is damaging for everyone. And
true.
So it's not easy to be said.
That's the thing with these. Sorry to interrupt. With these things that suffragettes or whatever, there were lots of other groups that completely failed and flopped, and in anything. And maybe one of the things to look at is what differentiated that party that is celebrated today and succeeded, compared to those that were just forgotten and had zero.
Well, I think one of the things for us as Muslims, I think, to remember is that people. If you look at throughout the time of colonization, Umar al-Mukhtar, Imam Shamil, Abdul Qadir al-Jazairi, Abdul Karim al-Khattabi, all those people, ultimately, they all lost. Ultimately, they were all defeated, right? But at a time when the superpowers are so strong, what do these people, should we say such people, if we were around in their place at that time, with the hindsight, knowing they're going to lose, which say, you know what, I'm not going to take part in you? Or are you going to stand with them? And that's a really strong, important question for us to think about, because today, all that's left of them is just their legacy and their name, and they didn't succeed.
So exactly. So that's why these things, they have to be calculated very well. Okay, it's not just let us do this. Jihad is the only way to liberate al-Aqsa, and you need to look at it from all angles. And otherwise you will have stillbirth. You will die before even you try something. And see, context has to be taken into consideration. What was successful before, and what succeeded before doesn't necessarily that it will be successful now. So anyway,
we're speaking to
a deep discussion. We want to end.
He mentioned something interesting that he said if something like divine, providence or divine intervention is part of your strategy, then that's a bad strategy. In those words, basically, that you have to at least plan some kind of strategy.
You basically say you got to prepare that Allah is not going to help you.
No, in terms of like
is that what you say?
Out of some kind of miracle, don't strategize factoring in some kind of miracle in to begin with. But try and think, practically speaking, within the rules of the game, is there a way to
that's why in the life of the Prophet ﷺ, he had Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, just to be practical. He said to Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, لولا أن قومك حديث عهد بإسلام لنقضت الكعبة. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam even he did not deal with the munafiqeen in a particular way. So there are so many things in the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that compel us to take the context into consideration when we want to apply certain Islamic rules.
So just to try and wrap this point up in terms of, are you calling then for some kind of some Muslims to make some kind of superpower and then liberate Aqsa in some kind of, by changing international law?
I said in one of the khutbahs, why Muslims don't have a superpower? Because if they have a superpower, then they wouldn't allow this Russian-Ukraine, or Russian aggression against Ukraine. Yeah, they will try to balance that or to try to do something about it. But because Muslims are powerless, so they are allowing the international politics to be an oppressive politics.
It's interesting though that the peace talks are all taking place in Turkey.
Yeah.
Actually, something I suggested. I said, for the sake of humbleness, why doesn't Russia and the West go to Afghanistan and do peace talks there, considering they were both defeated in that country?
Yeah, maybe. But this is so. If we as Muslims, we need to have a superpower. Why don't we have a superpower? Because there has to be a balance, in the power balance globally.
Khilafah.
Yeah. Call it khilafah, call it whatever you call it. This is just again, because their names can be problematic.
Yeah. United States of Islam.
Yeah.
Whatever. But we need as Muslims to have
USI.
a superpower.
Long live the USI.
Make Islam great again.
Okay, yalla, we need to.
Okay, Barakallah Feek, Sheikh. I think you said you had to leave on
now.
the dot.
Yeah.
7 o'clock on the dot. We have one more little game to do, but if you have to leave,
No, I have to.
maybe Moazzam and I can play the
You can
little
play.
game
sure,
very
inshallah.
briefly, inshallah.
Yeah.
No, I have to train to take to Birmingham as Sharif.
Yeah,
Yes.
mashallah.
Khalas, leave him. The game we can
We'll
do
do
it.
a quick round. All right, so countdown.
Mm-hmm.
This is our own version.
Okay.
Hopefully not trying to get sued by Channel 4 or anything, but we just have one round of countdown letters and numbers, and then your score will go up onto a season-wide
Leaderboard.
Yeah. So no pressure. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
We will have a little Carol Vorderman there. He's identifying as actually Rachel Riley today. She's the new one, isn't it? Okay, go ahead. So you're starting with, you know how it goes.
Choose a vowel.
Consonant, vowel, please, Carol.
Vowel.
Okay, your first vowel is U.
Consonant.
C.
Vowel.
O.
Consonant.
L.
Vowel.
I.
Consonant.
T.
Consonant.
T. Before you finish, as soon as you put the last one up, the timer starts. Remember. Oh, you haven't written down. He's gonna be watching the screen. It's alright. There's 2 left, isn't there? That's really bad. Sorry. Carry on.
Vowel.
E.
And consonant.
And our timer starts now. T. Yep. Are you not writing anything down, was it?
No, I'm just doing my head.
Well, how many letters do you have?
I don't have many. I do this stuff all the time. I just haven't done this. I haven't got anything on this. It would have been letters, but there's an E missing. The only thing I can get was cult.
Okay, nice. That's a 4-letter one. Just for the record, I had a 5-letter.
What's that?
But it's not competition. What?
Oh, that's a good one.
T.
Toilet.
Because I need to go.
I had clout.
Clout. Okay.
So finally we have a numbers round now. The thing, the top ones are big.
I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing here. I don't know.
Choose say, can I have? I'll do it then. So 2 letters, 2 numbers from the top row, 2 from the bottom, and 2 from the middle. before you, so just write it down. Might be easy to write down, Moazzam.
I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here.
50, 9, 6, 3, 8. So these are the numbers. You need to use these to get to a particular target number by doing simple plus, minus, divide,
Okay,
times.
that's just that's not my field
Okay,
at all.
then
I can't do
the
that.
973.
What?
Stop mentioning numbers. 30 seconds left.
I can't do it. Sorry. Pass.
My mind just went blank. All these distractions, these numbers, these. What did you get? Did anything get anything close?
Go. I came as far as 315 and then it's around the time.
Nice.
Did you get some more?
I got 20 times.
Oh, using a calculator. I was using the
Cheating.
I got 1,250. Jazakallah khairan, Shaykh,
Barakallah feek,
for
jazakallah
joining.
feek. It's
We'll
my pleasure.
carry on the discussion
Inshallah.
later, inshallah.
the distortion you was going to say.
Weapons of mass distortion.
Yeah.
And Moazzam Begg, Jazakallah khairan,
Allah
outreach
Jazakallah.
director from Cage, who
Jazakallah khair.
is going to be, another regular, inshallah, on the Unscripted Podcast. And thank you very much at home for watching, wherever you're watching this. Remember to give it a like and a share wherever you're watching this. Give it a good rating if you enjoyed it. Get involved in the comments below. And stay tuned. See you soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.